Hey everybody, Boris speaking Forex. Welcome to the weekly technicals for the COM dollars for Aussie dollar, dollar CAD, and Kiwi dollar, August 6th to August 10th, 2018. This week actually brings us quite a lot of commodity dollar event risk. We have the RBA and the RBNZ rate decisions, although nothing is expected from either of the central banks, so it's dubious to expect much of a market movement, but at least they're in the spotlight. And we also have labor data out of Canada, which could be very market moving at the end of the week. So as far as event risk goes, it's really front and center for the commodity dollars, even though it itself may not be very market impactful as we go forward. The net takeaway, I think, this week is that the commodity dollars, certainly the Aussie and the Kiwi, stabilized, and CAD really had the big move. Now, we talked last week about the fact that CAD was the mover in the COM dollar land, and that it had a strong momentum towards the 130. We took out the 130, and it was at that point that I was really cautious about trying to push it much beyond that. So far, my cautiousness has been justified in the sense that we haven't really pushed much beyond it. But we'll take a look at the charts and see where the next potential level for break is, depending on how much momentum loonie has and how much downside dollar CAD can generate. As far as levels go, nothing much changes except for dollar CAD. The levels still stay in the range of 73.75 for Aussie, 67.69 for Kiwi. The dollar CAD broke that 30 support level, so now sort of the nearest support level that is justifiable is 29.50, and that's going to be an interesting look. That could break sharply to the downside if we get positive Canadian data at the end of the week, so we'll be watching that very carefully. But for now, those are the primary range levels at which we stand. Let's take a look at the calendar here and just see what's on the calendar. So, as I said, we start out the RBA rate decision, not much expected. Buck 50, 150, 1.5% is the, I think, this is going to be the 19th consecutive RBA meeting where there's been no change, and it's doubtful they're gonna issue any sort of guidance that's different from neutral. They'll certainly give some lip service to trade issues. The one thing that was mildly positive at the end of this week, the news out of China that they started to stabilize the Yuan. The Yuan, of course, the weakness in the Yuan has really been affecting the Aussie because the weaker the Yuan is, the harder it is to sell into the Chinese market. Australia is, of course, the primary beneficiary, massive export driver to Chinese market. They started to stabilize it because the Chinese really don't want the Yuan to get any more weaker. And you saw Aussie go relative bid on Friday and actually end up at 74s, kind of holding bid right now as I speak on Friday close, primarily because of this particular dynamic. So it'll be interesting to see what the Chinese do as far as the trade issues go. There is a tremendous amount of skirmishes between China and the U.S. still about the tariff issue. And it doesn't look like either party is willing to blink or negotiate some sort of a truce. So we'll see. A positive, the negative is kind of built in at this point, but a positive will be very, very positive for Aussie. So that could be an external catalyst that could really make it move to the upside. Other than that, not much on the calendar from that perspective. Kiwi, same kind of a thing. We have the RBNZ rate decision coming up that's expected to basically be neutral, perhaps maybe even cautious to the downside. But this 67 support is pretty solid right now, given all the background that we see. And then the really interesting trade as far as data goes will be here, right over here on Friday, end of the week, with Canadian labor data, because Canadian data has been surprisingly buoyant, surprisingly good. We'll have the IBPMI ahead of time. That might give us a little bit of a read. Kathy is a little bit bearish on the IBPMI data set because of the drop, but overall the GDP numbers were much better, and if the employment data comes in strong, that certainly provides impetus for dollar CAD to move to a 129. Remember, really the only other central bank, I mean, I don't really count the Bank of England as a hiking central bank. It was much more for show than for reality. The only one that is even modestly serious about tightening policy is the Bank of, aside from the Fed, is the Bank of Canada. So any strong labor market data really puts a much more hawkish bent to the Canadian yield curve, and therefore provides dollar CAD with more downside potential. Let's take a look at the charts here and see how charts show up on the COM dollars. So let's actually look at the Aussie. These are the weeklies. It's actually good to look at the weeklies here because you see how strong the 73 hold is on the weeklies. very neutral. We're mid-range on from the weekly charts, and it's essentially where we stand. A really strong breakout would have to take us above 75s, and that would be a really nice clean signal to the upside for Australia. For now, though, we are truly at equilibrium, very much long-term supports somewhere around here at 73s. On a dailies, today was a pretty decent day to the upside. Still didn't take out the highs of Thursday, which would be really a nice bullish signal. But there's just, there's mild potential here. We have a little bit of a higher low here. Mild potential for us to extend to 74.50 perhaps, maybe 74.75. Those are the tops of this range on the dailies. Assuming the yuan strengthens and maybe we get some just modicum of positive buzz between the Chinese and the U.S. on the trade issue. Kiwi, similar kind of story, not as strong as Aussie. Still, by the way, actually relative weakness, and we'll take a look at the crosses because I think there might be an interesting cross trade because you're still seeing relative weakness on Kiwi. And given the fact that, let's just go back to the counter for 1 second. Kathy is actually bearish inflation expectations in New Zealand, and she thinks that maybe the RBNZ may be cautious. That is, if RBA is going to be neutral, RBNZ may be cautious, may even hint at the possibility that it could loosen monetary policy rather than strengthen it. All of those things kind of set up a negative relative strength trade for Aussie Kiwi. So we'll take a look at that on the crosses section. But for now, the Kiwi still holding this 67 trade, very low volatility trade. This is really, a 60, 70 pip weekly trade right now. Very boring summer doldrums trade, and I don't see much changing here. The star of the show, the really interesting trade, of course, is dollar CAD. That broke the 31s, took out the 130s this week. We are holding this. This is pretty long-term support. This 500 period SMA to the downside. A break. I'd really, if you look at this. So where are we at? This is 29.55, right? So you could see that 29.50 is the support. This is the key thing. We break that. That really opens up the run towards 128s. That really strengthens the move in dollar CAD. Oil not giving a lot of support, but what's interesting about the Canadian story is that oil has not been the primary driver for Canadian growth. As a matter of fact, West Canadian Intermediate is like trading $30 discount to Brent or to West Texas Intermediate crude. So it's like trading at around 38.40 because terrible logistical issues of getting that oil out. So the fact that it's trading so cheap and Canadian economy does so well is just a testament to the fact that it's really no longer a resource-intensive economy as it used to be, and trading very much on service dynamics, which is in long run much healthier. So yeah, we're holding the 30s. I was caught, as I said last week, I said it's going to run to 30, but beyond that, it's going to have a hard time. And you can see all of it really having a hard time making past the 30s. And at this point, you really want to see it break 29.50 to get further short the trade. For now, we seem to be consolidating. Let's see how the week goes ahead of us. It's going to be calm down week as far as news, but whether it's going to have much impact, we'll have to see on the market front. Wish you guys the best luck, the best trading. Boris, over and out.